This is ridiculous.
Everyone has to say the password, stranger. Even you.
An intruder would be dead by now.
Rules, stranger. You think I enjoy sitting in this little box all day?
Your enjoyment does not concern me.
The password, stranger.
By this point, I could have killed you and flipped the switch to open the door myself.
You wouldn't do that. Would you?
The world is a dark place.
Who will protect the world from darkness?
We will, after we play our stupid games.
Have a nice day.
What's left of it.
Ah, stranger. I have a somewhat personal request.
Greetings, soldier.
General Biggs.
I see you two have a mission to discuss, so I will take my leave now. It was good to see you again, Hapscom. Stranger.
Do you have time after this briefing, perhaps?
No, unfortunately, I have a meeting at 1300 hours in Pennsylvania.
Just as well. I have an immense amount of paperwork to attend to.
I know what you mean.
Thanks for stopping by, General. It is always a pleasure to speak with you.
Goodbye, Colonel. Good luck on your mission, soldier.
Do you remember Hamilton Killian?
He was an operative, just before I came to Spookhouse.
That's right. He served Spookhouse from 1909 to 1922. He's retired now, living in France. He contacted me recently requesting help. He says that a graveyard near his estate outside of Paris has been disturbed by supernatural activity.
Killian was supposed to be the best in his day. What could possibly be a problem for him?
He didn't offer much detail in his letter, but apparently the phenomena occurring there are more than even he can handle. He has requested that I send Spookhouse's best monster hunter.
Me.
Who else?
Not now, stranger. I'm busy.
I need some items for the undead, or demons.
Does it mean nothing to you when I tell you I'm busy? Okay, what kind of undead? Zombies? Vampires? What?
Unsure. Maybe zombies.
Well, I have this for type 1 zombies, but if they're any other kind of zombie, you are out of luck. And for demons, I have some of this. But I don't think you want to carry the 80-pound canister with you, do you?
No, thanks. The mission is a request of Hamilton Killian.
Killian? Oh, God, I knew him. I came to Spookhouse just before he left. He was scary. The most bitter man I've ever known. I think he was already insane by the time I met him. I'm sure you've heard all the stories.
I've heard a lot of stories. I'd like to know the facts. Since you were here, maybe you can set the record straight.
My first official task at Spookhouse was to find a cure for vampirism. The case subject was a pregnant woman named Emily Killian, Hamilton's wife. It was futile. When a vampire injects its venom into a human, the human's blood changes. There's no reversing it. It's like when a fire burns wood. You can't change the ashes back into wood. Emily only survived as long as she did because the vampire injected only a small amount of his blood into her. The transformation was slow. Unfortunately, by the time Hamilton brought her in, too much of her blood was tainted. There was nothing we could do. Hamilton knew this as well as any of the doctors. Hamilton refused to confine Emily to our lab. Oh, I can only imagine what he must have gone through, watching as she slowly turned into the thing he hated most. He blamed himself for the whole thing.
Why did Hamilton blame himself?
He went to London on a mission and took his wife along for a vacation afterwards. He had no trouble tracking down his target, a vampiress named Lady Ellen, who we thought was responsible for a series of vampiric murders in England. A couple of days later, his wife Emily disappeared. For 3 days, Killian and other Spookhouse agents hunted frantically for her, but they turned up nothing. On the third night, a London constable found Emily staggering, naked and confused along the banks of the Thames. Physically, she was fine, except for a little hypothermia and some scratches on her feet from wandering barefoot. The only thing really wrong with her was that she had no memories of the prior 3 days. Emily healed remarkably quickly, and Hamilton and wife returned to their way of life. A couple of months later, Hamilton announced that his wife was pregnant. Then her cravings began. Pregnant women get strange cravings, but Emily's hunger was different. Hamilton denied his suspicions of the cause. And soon after, Emily began having horrible dreams that were actually memories of those missing days back in London. It took her some time to confide in Hamilton. When she finally told him, Hamilton pieced together the clues from her fragmented memory to reach the horrible, undeniable truth. Actually, this is quite a long story. Are you sure you want me to go on? Lady Ellen, the vampiress that Hamilton had killed, was the youngest and most beautiful bride of a 500-year-old vampire named Lord Nocturne. The ancient vampire exacted a malicious revenge. In exchange for his Lady Ellen, the vampire took Emily Killian. But instead of just killing her, the vampire designed his vengeance to be slow and insidious. He injected Emily with the fluids of his vampiric blood and his diabolic seed. He then returned Emily to Hamilton. And Hamilton, who hated monsters above all else, had to watch as his wife grew the seed of evil in her womb. She begged him to kill her, but he refused, even as he watched her become less and less human. A few weeks before she was to give birth, Emily Killian ceased to be human. Hamilton drove a stake through the heart of the woman he loved. As his wife died, so did most of Killian's soul. But that wasn't the end. The unborn vampire child did not die. Its supernatural vigor kept it alive, and even as it squirmed within its mother's dissolving belly, Killian destroyed it as well. His soul was gone after that. Nothing remained in his own heart. A week later, he disappeared. The next any of us saw him was several weeks later. He walked in calmly and delivered the most comprehensive study of vampire physiology any of us had ever seen. Based on his wife's half-remembered dreams, Killian had tracked Lord Nocturne down. He had not killed Lord Nocturne immediately. Instead, he administered horrific, torturous tests on his captive enemy. He applied a variety of chemicals to Lord Nocturne's body to test the limits of the monster's regenerative and resistant powers. As a scientist here, I was shown the report. It was beyond hideous. However, the tests proved valuable to Spookhouse. We got the formula for aqua vampira from his research. He had spent days applying a variety of mercury and lithium-based compounds to his subject. Who knows what else we might have learned had Andre not broken free and leapt into a shaft of sunlight to end his own suffering. Killian refused psychiatric counseling, but he did talk to the Colonel at length, privately. When the Colonel proclaimed him fit to return to duty, no one disputed his decision. Afterwards, Killian was more lethal than ever, but it was obvious that his madness consumed him. He was a machine, slaying monster after monster without conscience or mercy. Moloch was our first monster operative. When he joined the team, Killian flew into a maniacal rage. After that, the Colonel demanded Killian's retirement. I can't say I was disappointed when he left. What's the objective?
Have you heard of Hamilton Killian?
Of course. Who here hasn't?
I don't know much about him.
He was Spookhouse's best monster hunter before the stranger and I got here. He took an early retirement or something. Apparently he had a nervous breakdown.
His wife was killed by a vampire. He turned into a veritable killing machine afterwards. Pushed him over the top when Spookhouse allowed Moloch to join.
Moloch. I've seen him on the bulletin board. Haystack talks about him sometimes. Says he was the biggest badass he'd ever seen. Misses sparring with him. He told me that being around Moloch made you scared, like he was emitting some type of evil energy. That's the one thing Haystack wanted to overcome most.
He met Spookhouse agents during the Nepalese horricide. He joined our ranks to carry out his vengeance on those who had cast him out. He proved a valuable asset to the team. He disappeared on a mission to Spain about 7 years ago. Killian had a really intense hatred for all monsters. Not unlike the stranger here. When Spookhouse allowed a full-blooded demon to join its ranks, he could not accept that. Honestly, I'm glad he retired before I joined. The stranger's dislike of monsters is bad enough, but from what I've heard, Killian's hatred was almost evil. So your briefing was about Killian, huh? What's wrong? Is he dead?
No. He's having some kind of trouble with monsters at his home in France. I'm surprised he's come across something that he can't deal with on his own.
From what I've heard of the man, it seems odd that he can't handle it himself. You've got your work cut out for you, stranger.
Hey, Svet, tell me more about Moloch and Killian.
It is good to see you. A rare occasion, true, but good. For what purpose are you here, stranger?
I'm going on a mission to assist Hamilton Killian.
Killian? I haven't heard that name in some time. An unfortunate story behind that man. A dark spot grew in his essence, and it nearly consumed him. Strange that he should have to seek assistance. He was quite thorough in his day. My advice to you is be extra cautious, stranger. This must be a very dangerous operation. Now we need silence as I help Haystack mentally prepare for his mission. It is time for you to meditate, my son.